Hello, I'm Liz, one of Dairy's reference librarians, and welcome to another episode of Misinformation Busters. Once a week, we tackle a rumor or a false or misunderstood story, and we try to separate fact from fiction. This week, we're talking about shedding, and not cat hair. So, what's the story? The COVID-19s are out and available for almost everyone. Yay! Vaccine misinformation is still here. Boo! The most recent trope is that recipients of the vaccine can shed the disease and make other unvaccinated people sick, or in some cases, affect fertility. And granted, these aren't really new tropes. They've been anti-vaccine talking points before. In fact, Alex Jones was claiming that these vaccines would make women sterile as early as the announcement of the trials. But it's gaining traction beyond the internet, with businesses asking vaccinated people to stay away. And the biggest example is a private school in Florida, the Centner Academy. It told its teachers that if they got the vaccine, they would have to keep distant. Founder Layla Centner said that she had heard reports of unvaccinated people being negatively affected by being in the presence of vaccinated people. And, quote, "We have at least 3 women with menstrual cycles impacted after having spent time with a vaccinated person." So, what are the facts? Long story short, there's nothing here to support these claims for the COVID vaccine. But there is a kernel of truth to the idea of a live vaccine affecting unvaccinated people. The live polio vaccine, which isn't used in the US anymore, mind you, did have the rare potential to shed in a way that could cause polio. The live vaccine was a liquid that was taken orally, and children who were vaccinated could shed it via their feces. And it could spread to kids if they did not wash their hands. But this was actually considered useful back in the 1950s. It was called contact immunity because vaccinating one child against polio could help indirectly vaccinate others. This was 60, 70 years ago, and the US has moved beyond that. There are other vaccines that could potentially shed via feces, like the shingle vaccine, but transmission is extremely, really need to emphasize, extremely rare. It's really only technically there's a possibility, there's no real cases. As it relates to the COVID vaccine, it's not even really possible. Pfizer and Moderna are mRNA vaccines. They aren't weakened versions of the virus and can't shed a spike protein. Nebraska Medicine, an Omaha-based health network, summed it up like this, quote, "Shedding can't happen without a live vaccine. The mRNA vaccines, Pfizer and Moderna, are not live vaccines and do not replicate. The Johnson & Johnson and AstraZeneca vaccines are considered live vaccines because they both contain adenovirus. Again, they do not contain the coronavirus. But the adenovirus in both the Johnson & Johnson and AstraZeneca vaccines can't replicate, so there's no way they can shed." So, as for affecting periods and fertility, it's being looked into, but there's no real evidence yet. Dr. Jen Gunter, an OBGYN and author of the Vagina Bible, runs a blog called The Vagenda, which, great name by the way. She looked into the claims of menstruation disruption and the danger to pregnancies. For menstruation, there's not a lot of studies or info on this, which Gunter says is a shame because it should be understood. But she looked into the reasoning why someone who's vaccinated might be having an earlier, slightly heavier period. And it isn't for some life-threatening reason. It's more stuff like the lining of the uterus is technically tied to the immune system. As for the danger to pregnancies, there is no data to support that. A lot of the misunderstanding comes from the Pfizer vaccine protocol, specifically the section titled Exposure During Pregnancy or Breastfeeding and Occupational Exposure. But it describes fairly standard stuff, i.e. what to do if you found out you were pregnant after getting the shot, if your partner was vaccinated at the time of conception. The third one is environmental exposure, which is where most of the vaccine shedding fear is coming from. But, as Dr. Gunter explains, quote, "This means exposure to the vaccine in ways other than being vaccinated. For example, a pregnant person or male sex partner was exposed because a vial broke and either the contents were aerosolized and they breathed it in, or it got on their skin." So it doesn't mean just being breathed on by a vaccinated person or having a vaccinated person near you. Gunter also pointed out that Pfizer is being very transparent about their secret, sinister plans by having that document online and available to read. So it comes down to either misunderstood information or misrepresented information. Thank you for watching, and as always, check for our sources in the comments and feel free to research using our EBSCO databases, which are available through the library's website, or when in doubt, ask a librarian, and I will see you in a few weeks as I am taking a little break. See you later.